Hi guys, welcome to the video. Today we're talking all things palettes. So as you know, I really love palettes. I love creating them. I love, it's basically like creating a piece of art for me, creating a palette. So you'll see a lot of different ones on the channel. And today I wanted to talk about some creative ways to create your own palettes and also show you some of the beautiful palettes that are available out in the marketplace at the minute. So there's some really unique and interesting ones. This is a palette that we recently created on the channel. I swatched everything and kind of showed you how I put it together. You can see some of the little shells, and I think they're 1/4 or 1/8 pans there from Green Leaf and Blueberry, some little dot cards, and there's a lot of different ways to create palettes depending on the medium that you're using. One of my favorite ways at the minute is using the art graph and these Derwent XL. This is the graphite, I think. Yeah, so that's the Derwent graphite number 4. It's the burnt umber maybe. But you can see that I just use a palette knife and I will carve little bits off and create other palettes from them. And I also recently added a few pastels and things into just an old hand cream jar, and I will show you a little bit more about this at the end. But I wanted to kind of show you that just with these small palettes you can create some really beautiful and interesting artwork. You don't have to have like a full palette, you don't have to have all the colors. You know, it's sometimes we really like to have a lot of the different colors and things, but just in creating a small curated palette of colors that really inspire you, something that you can carry in your pocket, you know, something that is meaningful to you, colors that really ignite your creativity, that is going to, you know, be a really beautiful palette. So, you know, we see a lot of different palettes, and the thing I want to show you through this video is that a palette can be created any way that you need it, depending on, you know, where you're painting, what you're painting, and yeah, it's really enjoyable to see different you know, palettes and the way people create and why they're drawn to different materials. So yeah, we've got a lot of that through the video, and then I want to show you at the end a book as well that has a whole bunch of different like explorers and artists and their different palettes. So you can see that I'm very much still inspired by Lucerne and Mount Rigi, and I'm not even sure if I'm saying that right. I've seen all different pronunciations, so let me know what you think. But yeah, I am really just still enjoying that. So, and you can see that was just a small palette that can create a lot of drama. So here also, this is where I keep it, in the pencil pouch, in this kind of pencil roll, and in the pocket there. So there's 2 little palettes that I keep in the pocket there. One is full of pastels and water soluble, like the what are they, the Inktense blocks, and the art graph and the Derwent XL, and then this one is just a tiny little watercolor palette. So again, I'll show you more about how I put this together at the end, but we will just use it to again kind of revisit the this mountain range, and I'll show you kind of using an entire different color palette, how different that, you know, the feeling those colors can evoke. So we're just going to swatch them out here. So first of all, I'll kind of tell you the names, and then I'll show you what I did. But the first one there is the Schminker Charcoal mixed with the Wallace & Seymour Shimmer Iron Glimmer. I mixed that just straight into the half pan. This one was the Daniel Smith Burnt Tiger's Eye, which I would probably prefer the Schminker Sepia Reddish. This one is the Isaro Buff Titanium, and then this one now is the Creamer Incarnate number 1. But I can list all these below for you if you want as well. No, it's a lot of information to take in. So this one here is a mix of Daniel Smith Pearlescent White and the Winsor & Newton Potter's Pink. And then this one here is one that I just mixed myself straight into the half pan. Again, this is Thulite, so I really love this. I got this as an actual pigment from Creamer Pigments, and then I have used some of my watercolor binder with it, but you can also use, you know, a pre-bought one from like Schminker or Creamer itself. So you can see here that these are the swatches that I kind of was basing this palette off. I've also really been enjoying using tape for these little landscapes as well. It kind of frames them off nicely. You can go straight to the edge with white and it still creates such a beautiful effect. Here you can see like a similar kind of a landscape, very quick landscape. We did this in the last video, but it's got these pastel colors and these neon colors, and then here we just have a very like summer's day, blue sky. So the color is so important to kind of showing, you know, what you want to achieve in that artwork. Yeah, so for that reason I really love that tiny little palette that can just take it's sort of like going back to a value scale, but there's this hint of blush, so I really love that, and a little bit of sparkle. So what are we doing here? This is another one that I did. This is actually just done it with my palette knife and watercolor. As I was cleaning it, as I was making the paints in the last video, I would just clean the brush off on there and yeah, create that painting. So, and then there's another one here. This one I am still kind of working on and in the middle of. So yeah, if you haven't heard about that, I think it's not the last video, maybe the one before, we talk a little bit about that painting. But so these paints are really beautiful. This is one of my whole paints, and you can see this beautiful palette is in, I put it in a silver, just an antique silver tray, so you can get those off Etsy. And then this one here is their little gouache travel cards. So I really love these, and you can just clip that into your sketchbook. You can clip a little water, like a little bit of water on, and you can have a very, very lightweight and portable painting setup. So I really love it for that. And we're going to do a whole video on the beam paints and swatch everything and paint with it. So this one here is also another beautiful new palette kind of situation that I have never showed. These ones were from Christmas, and we have the 12C here, and it's just a little travel palette which I really love, and then the heart one as well, which is the 12A. So you can actually just buy the pods, the eco pods, and then you could put those in like a little ceramic, you know, one of those little ceramic palettes with the little round wells, or you know, just on a ceramic plate or something like that as well. So these are a really beautiful little one. I'll show you where I'm going to put these as well. And they do need, just like any watercolors, like with a lot of handmade watercolors, because the pigment and binder is so strong, you do need to wet them first and let them reactivate for a minute. So I was a little bit impatient here, just trying to get the video done, but these are so beautiful. And the thing I really love about these paints is the like the texture of them. So I'm always looking for, you know, when you are looking at watercolors, you can get really finely milled ones, and that is the beauty of some of the watercolors, and the transparency and the clarity. But I really love that little bit of texture, that little bit of like actual grain that is in the color. So you can see the little tiny palette versus this one, but I'm putting this one in my this little tiny setup that I kind of take with me, and I did a little video about this a few videos ago, but yeah, I really have been trying to get out more and paint outside, so I really liked doing that, and having like these little different palettes to pull out and different colors with me to express different things and to capture different things. And then that little one just goes in here with this whole big pencil roll, which they can also, you know, I might take one out or change them around. But in the back pocket here, I also have the Schminker watercolor palette, like a 12 pan one, and then I'm going to put that heart in there as well. So I also wanted to show you with this, I unpicked some of the things, but you can see that none of the pencils move. So it's all still very packed very tightly in there. So even though I unpicked things, there's nothing moving around. They're not going to fall out. But you can also see that I have this jam-packed almost to the last hole there on the belt. And that I did get a question about, is this like the Sendak roll? And I think it's almost identical, but without the back pockets, which I couldn't accommodate. Like I couldn't fit anything else in there anyway. It's so full. But the next thing we're going to talk about is this little tiny art toolkit. So this little palette is as light as a feather. It's really beautiful, and you can customize it so with different configurations of, you know, quarter pans and eighth pans, and it's another nice one that can fit in your pocket. It's very lightweight, you know, one you might keep in a certain bag, or one you might keep in the car, or, you know, one in a coat pocket. So, but this box is housing all my haul things, and I have these two little pans, I think they're eighth pans, but from Greenleaf and Blueberry, that fit in that toolkit, which is really beautiful. So I have been really enjoying Greenleaf and Blueberry this year, and all these things I've been collecting since the last haul video. I think I finished filming it in like September last year, so I've been collecting things since then. We've had Christmas and birthdays, and Yeah, but I am sort of putting together like a green leaf and blueberry heavy kit. So it's mainly green leaf and blueberry. There are a few other, a gallo, there's a pink pipestone from Rivervale Watercolor, and yeah, once I finish this palette we will also swatch that out. One, I just really love to support the shops of artisans when they're creating these colours. It is such a lot of work, so I really love to support them. And you can see I keep the little things and just will staple them in or put them somewhere, the little labels. But yeah, there was also some colours in there that I don't normally have, like the ultramarine blue and the pyrrole red, so I thought it would be nice just to have a small palette to just pull those out if I need them. Yeah, but I'm also showing you another way which I really love to create a palette in a traveler's notebook or just pop it in your sketchbook, is to either squeeze out some little dots of paint and create like a dot card for yourself, or to use neo colors and just draw a palette. And you can see all these things were done with that palette, and I used that palette for like a couple of years. I really loved it, and I would just keep redrawing the neo color onto the squares. And yeah, it's really enjoyable way to have a palette. So the other thing is you may want to get a porcelain plate or like a ceramic plate, but this is a Royal Doulton one. So this is not antique, you can actually still get these. This is a sandwich tray, but I really love having something like that that's beautiful to mix on as well. It just makes the whole experience really nice. And then another idea is to create just a little palette from dot card samples, or so like all of these are samples that I've been sent and they're just sitting in that little box, but I thought like let's make a really nice little pocket palette from them. And yeah, you can see that I've wet the back, I've wet around it, and I'm just kind of peeling that off. I wet in the little pan there, and I've just popped that little dot straight in there. So yeah, it's just a really nice way to create a palette. So these were just all sitting in my drawer, and now I have this actual palette that I'm really excited to take out and use. So you can also use like a palette knife to get them off. And if you don't have just samples, then some shops like what's her name? Anyway, I will link it below, but some shops just sell the dot cards. The Peach Pop is usually like, I'll get the dot card of it if it's not in stock, and I really love those as well. So creating a little palette like this is such a nice idea. And then I'm just using, so you can just use a little tube of either student grade paint, something that you don't use. This was just on my desk, and I don't think I've ever really used it. This is a gouache, and so I'm just using this, squeezing it in, and then putting everything in place on top of it and letting that dry, and that will just hold everything in place. And then I can just wet those and pull them out when I want to, or move things around. Some of these colours come from Nib's Watercolor, the sparkly ones. I love her sparkly colours, and she will often send quite a nice amount of dot cards and just little extras. And then also these ones here, the more earth colour ones, are from KW Arts, and she also has beautiful, like really lovely natural watercolors. They're really stunning. The other thing that I have here is 2 Inktense blocks. So I can't remember, I think one is called Bark and one is a black. So one's like a hematite violet and one is just a black. But I've been really enjoying using those as well. So I only got 2 because I don't really need any of the other colours or anything, but I do like having just that little bit of a water soluble material there. And you can see here that I can either take paint directly from it with my paintbrush, or I can actually pick it up and use it as, you know, as a sort of a crayon. I often get asked how to make looser, kind of more expressive marks, and one of the ways is to use something like that that's not got a point, and it'll give you some texture and some variation in that line as you use it. So I think now you can see, like, this was a little kind of haul footage that I took that we kind of haven't really done yet, but so you can see here this is the Creamer Incarnate number 1. It's a full pan, and I wanted to create a half pan, and I wanted to create a little sort of 1/4 or 1/8 pan to go in this. So I just used the X-Acto and I just cut some of it into the half pan. I was actually able to take that out and add some underneath, so all of the rest of the full pan is actually in the half pan, and then this little part is in here. So and then I also squeezed some of that charcoal and the Shimmer Iron Glimmer, both of them sort of half each, into this little pan, and then I just used a needle to mix that around so that it you know, you're not losing any of the colour. You can just kind of easily wipe it off. You can see the size of it here next to the 2 half pans, how small this little palette is. I will link all these below as well. And then this here, I was just really thinking about this blue, thinking about like just the colours of Santorini or Greece, and yeah, so I just again just took my X-Acto and then got a little bit of that off and popped it in there. And yeah, I really love creating palettes like this. Again, I've just, you know, chiseled a little bit of that off. A little bit of the gold pastel is in there as well, a Diane Townsend gold pastel. And the other thing you can do is just get some shells, some colours that you like, or dot cards, and pop them in a little tin. Those ones were from Greenleaf and Blueberry, but you can, you know, do that at home as well. So this is a book I wanted to show you. I've been trying to add a book in at the end of every video, and this one is about explorers and their sketchbooks and their paint palettes, and it's really, I mean, I haven't read the whole thing, but there's a lot of inspiration in here about how different people creatively, you know, forage things and bring things together. You can see like their inspiration, their colour palettes, the materials they were using. You can kind of try and think about how they were layering things, how they were painting, why they were, you know, drawn to certain scenes. Like, these are so beautiful, and the different kind of sketchbooks and papers they were using. One of the things I want you to think about, like, I'm always kind of showing you know, the kind of art from like the sketchbooks I'm using, the palettes I'm using, the colours I'm using, but there are so many different ways, and you know, to create things and to have a palette that's unique to you, that's important to you, and that you really love to use. And that could be very simple, and you know, it could be elaborate. It's really up to, you know, it's really nice that you can create a palette for you and about you and share about you in that way. This book goes through a lot of different explorers, and I think that at one stage they say I love this as well. Like, he keeps the paintings in kind of these little boxes. It's just so beautiful. So, you know, the way you store things is part of that kind of visual language. So it's really, really lovely. Like, you can see all these palettes, they're so well used and well loved. What was I going to say? Like this quote, life I find it has much of climbing and painting in it, the contemplation, the challenge, the quick decisions and the sheer joy of arriving occasionally at the place one longed to be. It's so lovely, like, to see the different things. You'll also see that I always censor art books, so I will paint over them, I will rip pages out. I want them to be PG, I want them to be, you know, available on the family counter and, you know, the coffee tables. So yeah, you will see that. But yeah, just really, really, like, this one here is an elevation with the plants that were growing, you know, at the different heights. Like, it's really inspiring, you know, what each person felt they needed, and, you know, the way they drew things and the books they liked to use, yeah, everything. Like, a lot of this is in pen. I love the old maps, and, like, look at this page. So it's got, like, the writing, I guess, from the other page that's kind of come onto it. It's so nice, just graphite. And yeah, this one here, so he keeps he does plein air painting, and he keeps them in drawers, very, like, ordered and, you know, very meticulously kept. And then there's also some really nice quotes in here. Sit still a while, breathe deeply and look. I think that's just really nice. So, and then he has a very simple palette. You can see here, that is his palette. It's a small one, and then these he collects, like, all these different specimens from around the world, different rock samples and soil and all kinds of things. So yeah, I think it's really fascinating to kind of look and see what people are using, how they're using them. And again, like, I am sort of coming from one viewpoint where I love to create the palettes. Like, look at these beautiful books. I love to create the palettes. They are part of my artwork, and but, you know, there's so many different ways to express your, you know, where you are, how you are seeing the world, and yeah, what you enjoy. This is the part, this here is, it's a series of elevations, I think, of Tasmania, and there was often an artist on board, and so on these ships, and so all of the crew were asked to keep little notes or sketches of things that they saw. They were all given to the artist, and then he would try to create, like, an informed art piece from them, or like final works. So yeah, I think that's just really all interesting. And you know, we're all from, I especially loved, like, hearing from everyone in the last video we were talking about painting in the Swiss Alps, and I love that some of you are from there and from all different parts of the world, and it's so interesting, like, if we could map that out. And yeah, it's really nice to be able to come together for, like, these painting parties. So I also wanted to say thank you for a lovely shop update. So everything was selling out quicker than I could get it uploaded, so I really appreciate that. And I hope you guys enjoy everything. Again, I am working on a proper you know, website and all of that stuff, so hopefully you know, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in next week. I have a really nice little video for next week, and then we will do a bunch of palette swatching parties. So I will see you then. Bye, guys.